Welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. Now, artificial intelligence is increasingly shaping global security, and now the UN Security Council is taking notice. In a landmark session, world leaders debated both the promise and perils of AI, from enhancing peacekeeping to the threat of cyber warfare. Poland's representative noted the potential for AI to help defend against mounting digital threats as well. Joining us today on TVP World is Dr. Igor Protasowicki, a cybersecurity expert at Vistula University and a leading voice on AI and digital defense. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, my pleasure.
So, the recent UN Security Council actually brought up AI as a topic, and I'm wondering how these two kind of link together. What are some of the security concerns or danger that the Security Council is aiming to address?
Well, basically, we used to treat AI like a totally vulnerable puppy that is happy to serve all our questions. And the question now is, why is it developing itself the way it is? Because at the very beginning of modern language model developments, we took control of almost everything. We did the algorithms, we fed them with data, we told them how to understand this data. So sooner or later, we knew that the implemented self-development processes are going to take control. Now they are, and we barely understand how.
That is actually quite terrifying by the sounds of it. Can you help us elaborate a little bit? What does that even mean? Do you mean like they are capable now of developing itself, and that is out of just a control? Because the way I understood it is whoever programs it or whoever feeds it its algorithm is in control. Do you think that this will no longer be the case now that it's gained the capability of self-development?
We have to put some boundaries around it, because still, this is a tool that is supposed to serve our purposes. So basically, the way it is developing itself serves optimization, because just now, after years of computers development, we reached a certain level where the computer specs allow us to compute with large amounts of data. And with this large amount of data, we are able to implement such algorithms and use it on our behalf. Somewhere in the middle, there is a natural language processing model that allows us to communicate with the model. But what happens underneath is still undergoing the optimization, because the way it understands information is totally different of what people use to understand information. On the computer end, we have ones and zeros, and computer does everything to save space. On our end, we have pure information that is easy to digest by our brain. So those two places meet somewhere in the middle. It used to meet somewhere in the middle, but now, since language models are able to implement self-optimization, we no longer understand how the information is being stored within language model and how the language model is processing it.
Right. I think one easy example that I've been observing is if you use AI to generate images.
Yes.
The way that it is being done is so different from how a human would approach it. And instead of like an outline, a structure, and then color it in, it goes from the top, kind of like a printer, and kind of starting putting the pixels together. It's completely different from how people understand it. And that kind of brings us to the question of, well, without ample and proper understanding of this technology, how do we try to rein it in or use it to our own advantage? We've seen the Polish president recently saying that this could be used to, AI can be used for security, but with like regulations and real guards put in place. But how much do we understand, or these the politicians understand how AI works in order to properly regulate it and put it within the guardrails?
I would be very far from trying to explain how politicians can understand how AI works. But frankly, we can use it on our behalf in terms of security, cybersecurity, and modern warfare. From the perspective of ability to compute large amounts of information. You see, ever the whenever we have any sort of military conflict and armed forces are on both sides, army generals decide. We have some staff that is asked to prepare strategies, planning, to evaluate the current situation, and we, with our limited abilities, can easily just miss some details. While if you put all this information to computer system, the computer system will take everything under consideration, with the smallest details included. That's why it can be helpful.
Right. I think we've already seen that in the medical sector, right?
Yes.
You can see them actually reading CT scans much better than most trained doctors and being able to spot cancer markers that's even just like a speck in the scan. But trying to implement that into kind of our day-to-day lives and into the military sector, we can see also usage in that. I'm curious also about these regulations and guardrails, however, seeing that it is such a powerful tool. And well, when the public sector tries to regulate it, what is to stop the private sector or even competing countries from leaning into these advanced technology and kind of leaving us in the dust who are less willing to actually put these guardrails around?
If we put any sort of act around artificial intelligence, we're just putting stop signs on the pathways, possible pathways that can end up badly. So if you put any sort of limitations within the algorithm, you say do not expand, do not optimize, and do not develop yourself above this level. And if you create good boundaries, you will stop, you will prevent this algorithm from going sideways. Otherwise, it can end up like in science fiction movies where we have to compete with machines on some point. Right now, we are trying to implement such limitations on the state level, regional level, and since UN took these conversations on the global scale as well. But on the other end, we have, we can call it rogue AI, like for example in Cyberpunk, but we are talking about official language models that are created by OpenAI and other companies. On the other hand, we have such unofficial language models that can be created by cybercriminal societies to work on their own, and we have to take special care about this section because it's not undergoing any restrictions and any limitations, so you can use it to conduct any cybercriminal activities you desire.
All right, so do you think that at some point there will be a rift between the technological capability of those who are more wary of these type of situation and putting guardrails in place, and players, for example, like China or even these cyber criminals, let's say, who are less inclined to use it for ethical purposes or limit its growth? And do you think that this will put people who are willing to regulate it in a disadvantage?
Well, we have few different areas that we cover with artificial intelligence right now. We have industrial projects that are being used to conduct all these sorts, all information that is required to direct some manpower or direct some facility processing. On the other hand, we have information processing that is being used to serve information for general purposes, like all the GPTs that we're dealing on with on daily basis. So information right now is a key to power. So that is why we have such a strong competition between China, Europe, and United States. Basically, whoever is able to create more efficient language model that will be able to communicate with human beings more efficiently wins this competition.
And there's also an issue that I'm seeing right now with these large-scale language model that when it comes to disinformation, when it comes to,
yes,
because they do just scan the net for all sorts of information, and whatever is flooded as a database seems to be taken as a fact instead of like having to weigh different credibility. Is that something that is going to be of a concern going forward?
That is the biggest vulnerability of modern language models, because basically basically it cannot distinguish what is true or from what is false. It takes statistics under consideration. So if you really flood internet with fake information, you can hide it deeply in web pages. You don't even have to expose those information to the public, because it can be deeply somewhere in the web page but unseen by the viewers. It will be registered by the language model robots that collect information from the internet. And if statistically taking such information appears in many places, if the percentage amount is high enough to treat it as fact, it will be treated as fact, and it will be served as the answer to more and more prompts in the future.
Right, so it does seem like dive into AI and expand on these technology, we are running a little bit of risk of opening the Pandora's box here. And something to keep in mind. Do you think that the UN Security Council, having addressed this issue, is a good sign that politicians, decision makers are finally kind of taking this more seriously?
Yes, it shows that we as a society, we develop ourselves alongside with AI. So we try to understand how it works. Majority of Western civilization societies understand that it's a tool and we can use it on our behalf. And since we understand how to use it better and better to be more effective in our daily basis assignments, shows that we are at least conscious on how to create those boundaries to AI models to be developed in the future, not to go rogue, for example.
And hopefully this consciousness and this boundary will kind of rein us in for a better future. Thank you so much for your input and insight.
My pleasure.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. Before more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.